Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed participants, welcome to the last session of the 2024 World Congress of the Regional Science Association International. We hope that you enjoyed this conference. Sadly, all good things come to end. But to postpone that minute of farewell just a little bit further, please welcome our last presentation by Professor József Popp.
Ladies and gentlemen, I feel honored to be here today and give you a presentation on the circular economy and regional aspects. I am not going to take your precious time in the last hour of this conference and maybe the first day of your sightseeing tours in Kecskemét or Budapest, so I try to be brief and stay focused on the topic. The title of my presentation is The Circular Economy and Regional Aspects. That's the brief outline. Let's start with global challenges. Number one challenge is world population growth. Only one country in the world, namely China, introduced birth control over 30 years ago. That was the one-child policy. Switching over to two-child policy, and 5 years ago, they introduced the three-child policy model. Today we have 8.1 billion people on Earth, and the yearly growth rate is 0.9%, or 70 million people. Today, 55% of the global population lives in cities, and this share will go up to 65–70% by 2050. And what does it mean? More land is needed for settlements. On the other hand, we have a limited biocapacity. In this slide, you see the surface of the Earth. 71% of the surface is covered by oceans. Just 4% is productive. And this 4% provides about 17% of global animal source protein for food. We have 11% unproductive land, like deserts, ice caps, and barren land. It's unproductive land. And 18% productive land. In total, 9.2 billion hectares, like forest and grassland, and the share of cropland is just 17%, where we produce 95% of our food demand globally. Agricultural expansion accounts for 73% of deforestation. Mainly beef, soybean, and palm oil production in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brazil. Urbanization accounts for 10%, development of infrastructure for 10%, and mining for 7% of deforestation. Since 1990, 420 million hectares of forest have been lost through conversion to other land uses, mainly from forest to agricultural land. The third challenge is the global energy-related CO2 emissions. Cumulative CO2 emissions from fossil fuels reached 1.5 trillion tons between the start of the Industrial Revolution, 1750, and 22. In 2022, CO2 emission was 36 billion metric tons, meaning another 1.5 trillion metric tons in the next 40 years. So this trend is unsustainable. CO2 emissions from fossil fuels have a 70% share in total CO2 emission. Renewable energies has a 20% share in global final energy consumption globally and 22% in the EU. So it's still a very low share. On the other hand, carbon price on the EU emission trading system increased from 6 to 90 euro in the last couple of years. In 2026, the construction and mobility sector will be included into the emission trading. It means that the carbon price may go up to 300 euro per metric tons after 2026. Earth's Overshoot Day, you must have heard this phrase. That's the day by which we have used more ecological resources and services in 1 year than our planet can renew within the same year. This day comes earlier and earlier with each passing year. In 2022, Earth's Overshoot Day fell on July 28, last year, July 27. Ecological overshoot is only possible for a limited time before ecosystems begin to collapse. We are on the verge of this collapse. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals have 169 targets to demonstrate the scale of sustainable development. The main objective of the European Green Deal is to become climate neutral by the year 25 with the full implementation of the circular economy. You see the global material footprint of the linear economy. Today we live in a linear economy. What does it mean? We use about 100 billion metric tons of raw material each year, mainly minerals, metal earths, fossil fuels, and biomass. You can see that about 15% of the material input is non-renewable, partly minerals and partly mineral earths. 15% of the material input is non-circular. Fossil fuels emit CO2 into the atmosphere. It's non-circular because carbon capture and storage is not yet a praxis today, at present. So what happens with the raw materials? 40% of the material input is locked in to roads, homes, and durable goods for 30, 50, 100 years, and infrastructure, other kind of infrastructure. 40% is locked in. 15% is emitted into the atmosphere. In total, it makes up about 55% of total material use. And at the end, we collect 35 gigatons or billion tons of waste, and just 7.2% of the raw material input is cycled back into the loop, is recycled, is used again. So the global economy is 7.2% circular at present. Achieving 100% circularity is not possible. Stock build-up represents about 40%, as I mentioned before. Fossil fuels are combusted through their use, emitted, CO2 is emitted into the atmosphere, and some materials, metal, plastic, and glass, may only be cycled a few times, as each cycle degrades quality and will require some virgin inputs. Recycling is not keeping pace with consumption growth. Between 1972 and 2021, material use increased from 26 gigatons to 101 billion tons, or 101 gigatons. And in the business as usual scenario, this volume may go up to 170 gigatons by 2050. So, as I mentioned, achieving a fully circular economy is not technically possible, since most materials can only be reused for a limited number of cycles before the qualities degrade. We use glass 6-7 times in a cycle. After that, we have to destroy glass, produce again glass, or use it for other purposes. Applying the principles of a circular transition on a global scale could meet people's needs by using only 70% of the materials we consume today. So we could save 30%, but it would be a great achievement. By 2050, the world's population is growing year by year. The yearly growth rate is coming down very slowly. And with it, the demand for resources. Supply of such resources are finite or limited. So we have to switch from the linear to the circular economy. Circular business models. The circular economy is based on 5 main business models and their combination, namely circular supply chain, recovery and recycling, sharing platform to optimize capacity use, product as a service, where you don't sell the product, just the function of the product, and product life extension, to extend life cycles. I give you an example of each business models used today. Circular supply. Pinatex is a sustainable textile, pineapple and textile, that's the abbreviation, made from the fibers of pineapple leaves, and it was developed by the company Ananas Anam, based in London. So this model benefits pineapple growers by providing them with extra income, and designers using a new, innovative and sustainable material. As many CO2 emissions are saved as would have resulted from burning the leaf waste. It's a biological cycle. Recovery, recycling. Running tracks from shoes. Nike company started a project in 1992, more than 30 years ago, in which used sports shoes are collected around the world. The collected shoes are ground up and sorted to be used for the manufacturing of surfaces for sports grounds, running tracks, basketball courts, and baseball fields. It's an everyday practice today as well. Sharing platform, I think that's the best known business model today. You see the community transport in Budapest. Green Go, that's an application, enables registered users to locate the car parked nearest to them in a street, which they can then use on a pay-by-the-minute basis. It's 50% cheaper than a taxi in Budapest. The venture is based on community sharing, offers a solution to environmental pollution and the shortage of parking spaces. If you don't buy a car, if you don't own a car, you just use a car, then you can use a higher capacity of the car, you need less parking lots, and you can decrease the CO2 emissions from the transport sector. Product as a service, selling a function. Offer product access services and retain ownership of the products. Customers do not need to buy the product, but use it through lease and pay-per-use arrangement. Philips provides pay-per-lux lighting services. A good example is in Amsterdam. There's the Schiphol Airport, Lunch 2. If you go to the airport, Amsterdam, you can have a look at that. Philips is responsible for the investment, changing the bulbs, everything, and the airport pays per lux. So you buy light without an investment, not light bulbs and the infrastructure, just the light. But another company, for example, Michelin, has the same model. You don't have to buy the tire, you pay per kilometer use of the tire. Product life extension, used parts in new cars. I think the company Renault is in the forefront of product life extension. The refactory of Renault in Flins, that's France, is Europe's first circular economy factory dedicated to mobility and will be deployed gradually between 2021 and 2024. They finished the investment this year. The project would enable more than 45,000 second-hand vehicles to be reconditioned each year and upcycle electric vehicle batteries to give them a second productive life of 10 years. The average life cycle of a battery is 5 years today. And Flint Center aims to reach a capacity of 20,000 electrical battery repairs by 2030. So you could see 5 business models and the combinations of these business models. The first 2, circular supply and resource recovery and recycling, is linked to bioeconomy. That's the bio-based economy, using just organic materials. And biological nutrients re-enter the biosphere safely. There is no any problem with bio-based economy, but you could see that just 20% of the energy used is renewable and 80% still fossil energy. On the other hand, we have the product life extension, sharing platforms, and product as a service business models. They are linked to the circular economy fully. And the life cycle of technical products, where products are produced, used, and discarded, and where technical nutrients circulate at high quality without entering the biosphere. We don't produce waste. If you don't enter the biosphere, you don't produce waste. You reuse all the time the waste. The waste is a resource. Regional aspects. It's a regional conference. We have regional aspects as well. The global circularity rates has fallen steadily from 9% to 7% in the last 5 years. We are consuming more virgin materials than ever, year by year. Wealthy countries could achieve the most impact by adjusting regulations, rolling out taxes to increase the price of unsustainable products. In emerging economies, Governments can shift subsidies away from polluting sectors towards clean, regenerative ones. In middle-income countries, fostering circular agriculture and manufacturing will be a top priority. And lower-income countries could prioritize sustainable development through circular policies. So what about the circular material use rate? In the world, just the EU has indicators of circular material use rate. And if you look at the member states of the EU, you can see a very diverse picture. In 2022, the circularity rate was highest in the Netherlands, 27%, followed by Belgium, 22%, and France, 19%. The lowest rate was recorded in Finland, sustainable country, without any circularity. They have very good innovation without any circularity. Finland, 0.6%, Romania, 1.4%, and Ireland, 1.8%. Is that the laser? Yeah. That's the average circularity rate of the EU, 11.5%. Globally, 7.2%. The EU is in a better shape than the world itself. But the picture is very diverse, and the circularity rate in Hungary is just 8.5%. You can pick your own country, and you can see what your government has done for circularity so far. Circular economy in cities and regions. Implementation of the circular economy happens in regions and cities because the places where people live and work, consume and dispose hold a fundamental role in the transition to a circular economy. By 2050, the global population is estimated to reach 10 billion people, and as mentioned before, about 65 to 70% of people will live in cities. Cities represent almost 2/3 of global energy demand, produce 50% of solid waste, and are responsible for 70% of greenhouse gas emissions. The COVID-19 crisis highlighted the unsustainable nature of certain environmental and social trends and led to reconsideration around current production and consumption pattern towards a green recovery. But circularity has not improved since then. Cities and regions face major gaps. Let's see some governance gaps for a circular economy in cities and regions: funding gaps, regularity gaps, policy gaps, awareness gaps, awareness of consumers and policymakers, and capacity gaps. 4 key objectives in measuring the progress and impacts of the circular economy are: raise awareness, make the case for the circular economy, trigger actions, and monitor performance and evaluate results. I represent the education sector in Hungary, and circular economy is not a topic at the universities of Hungary. Absolutely not. So first we have to start with the education and the kindergarten, the elementary school, then secondary grammar school and universities. And we can talk about awareness raising, but nothing happens. Not even at the university level. What can you expect from everyday people? And the EU, regions are the most important administrative units of the development policies. The adoption of the circular economy in cities and regions is underexplored and still in infancy stage. The macro, meso, and micro level divisions need to be reconsidered as the term region in the context of circular economy implementation is used consistently. The transition towards the circular economy requires both the support of the government via top-down policy instruments and encouragement from the bottom in response to changing social preferences. Local drivers and barriers linked to circular economy are very specific in each region. Thus, regional authorities have a fundamental role in developing policies for this transition. The lack of a regional monitoring framework and measurement system can also be identified, almost in each region. Conclusion: horses to automobiles in New York City in 13 years. It's a good example for the situation today. To the left, you see the 1900 New York Easter Parade. That's the Fifth Avenue and the District Manhattan, New York City. All horses but one automobile, 1900. To the right, 13 years later, all automobiles but one horse. It happened in 13 years. Little more than a century later, we are already in the middle of a similarly sudden paradigm shift. This time, the conversion of fossil fuels to renewable sun, wind, and hydropower, not back to horses. If I knew the world would end tomorrow, I would plant a tree. That's a quote from Martin Luther King, the freedom fighter. The United States, last slide. Only when the last tree has been cut down, the last fish been caught, and the last stream poisoned, will we realize we cannot eat money. That's an Indian proverb. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any question, please you can write me an email. Here is my email. Don't waste your time right now to raise questions. But if you have any question, I am happy to answer these questions. You can have this presentation from the university webpage, and you can write me any question in the future as well. Thank you again.
Thank you, Professor. Next, I would like to ask Associate Professor Andrea Caraeu, the Executive Director of the RSAI, to the stage to share his goodbye message with us.
Time's up. Let's go to dinner. How was this? Thanks everybody for being here. It's lovely because this is really, as so many people stressed over the past few days, this is really like a family of friends getting together to discuss science, which seems a bit odd, but this is what it is. And the second thing that I discussed with Balázs over and over and Joseph over the past few days, let us not forget what this part of the world was 30 years ago. and let us enjoy how nice it is to get together and to discuss with so many people from so many different places, because this is, in my personal little experience in my life, this is a humongous achievement that we should never underestimate and we tend to take for granted. Thank you very much and safe travels back home. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would like to ask Professor Hans Weston, the president of the RSAI, to the stage to give his farewell speech.
Dear all, although you are not so many left here right now, but we have been here and we have had 4 really awesome days here in Kecskemét. The John von Neumann University is indeed a great place to be at. We have presented, discussed lots of new research, we have listened to very insightful and inspiring keynote speeches and panels, and we have had fantastic parties. For those of us that attended the gala dinner last night, it will be a memory for life. The incredible dancers, the choir that sang as they have seen the kingdom of heaven even, and the wonderful speech of Jeff Ewings. In 2 years, the Congress will be held somewhere else in the world. Now, during spring, we will announce the call for bids, and I know already that several places are interested in organizing the Congress. And one thing is sure, the place that will be selected will have to work very hard to come up to the standards we have enjoyed here in Kecskemét. Everything has an end, so has also great congresses. So thank you, organizers, Balas, Josef, and Imre, and all you others here in Kecskemét, and Andrea and Elisabeth at the RSAI. And thank you, participants. I hope to see you again at some upcoming regional science arrangements. But don't forget what Jeff Ewing said yesterday. What matters is to have fun. Or, as I used to say it, keep on rocking. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Westlund. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed participants, we as hosts hope that you have had a time both valuable and enjoyable at the John von Neumann University in Kecskemét. We have prepared a goodbye package for you, just something for the road. Please make sure to pick up at the registration desk. Thank you for your participation. Have a safe journey home. We hope that you see again soon, or as we say it in Hungarian, jó utat és viszontlátásra.
I feel really sorry about that. I feel like Lieutenant Columbo, who's always coming back the door and has just one more question or just one more additional thing. I had no opportunity to thank for my fellow colleagues here at the Kecskemét campus who were really 1,000 helping hands. So thank you, Balázs and Imre. This is certainly something what I mustn't forget about, but I have some representation of my colleagues here. So I can see Edina and Nikki. So just give a small applause for the two ladies and for the others who were luckier and asked me to let them go home. So that was a fantastic experience. And just a very last reflection, I feel really lucky that we could hear Professor Pop as a closing presenter of this entire Congress, because we have heard so many things about the present and the past, but a little less about the future. And there is a lot to take away for the future in that presentation. And for regional science, there is also a lot for the future in those thoughts. So thank you very much once again. If Balázs insists, he could also certainly come to the stage, and please welcome him too. And this is really the last final moment when we say goodbye and wish you all a safe trip. That was a 16 months project, so to say, approximately, but at least the last 6 were quite burdensome. So what I'm still missing to do is a great shaking hands with Balázs. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. In Hungarian culture, today we celebrate 2 birthdays, 2 very, very important birthday of Hungarian literature. The first time Attila József, and the second time Sándor Márai. And I will say one moment from literature and writing of Márai. Those cultures die that only want to preserve. Those who are always creating new live forever. I think that I wish to our life, and I wish to our jobs, and I wish this the regional science. We create a new research, we create a new themes, and we make a new solution. Thank you very much.